You're listening to With Electronics What's Up Radio podcast, where each week we are seeing what's up in the world of electronics and PCB design. We'll be checking in with leading industry experts and Worth Electronic technical specialists. We're going to shine a light on our topics such as energy harvesting, wireless power transfer, EMI issues, and so much more. Tune in to get technical design tips and applications during your commute, at your desk, or wherever you might be with Worth Electronics What's Up podcast. This week, it's all about DC to DC converters and how to make them efficient and EMC friendly. Choosing the appropriate capacitor, storage inductors, switching frequency, and semiconductors, along with many other factors, is absolutely vital for the efficiency of DC to DC switching regulators with relatively high input and output currents. A high-efficiency switching regulator is market-ready if it and the end product comply with all the necessary EMC standards. This often means that further appropriate filters will be needed at the input and the output to reduce emissions of interference. But you could have a problem. With high input and output currents, it's difficult to find a compromise between the efficiency, size, damping, and cost of the filter and the actual performance level. Today, we will use the example of a 100-watt buck-boost DC to DC design to outline the considerations, layout, and the components necessary to find that compromise. First, we look at the scope of the project. A buck-boost converter is to be developed and needs to be up to 100 watts output power at 18 volts and input voltage between 14 and 24 DC volts with a maximum input current of 7 amps and max output current of 5.55 amps. This converter also needs to have efficiency in excess of 95% at 100 watts output, compliant with CISPR 32 Class B emissions limits, both conducted and radiated, include low residual ripple of output voltage, shielding is not possible, long cable at both the input and output, and finally, it needs to be as compact and as cost-effective as possible. Now, because of these requirements, it's so important to develop a very low inductive and compact layout and filters harmonized with the converter. If we consider EMC, the cables at the input and output are the main antennas in the frequency range up to 1 gigahertz. Because modern 4-switch buck-boost converters have high-frequency current loops at the input as well as the output, depending on the operating mode, both the input and the output need to be filtered. This prevents high-frequency interference resulting from rapid switching of the MOSFETs from passing into the cables and being radiated. The LT3790 is a switching regulator from Linear Technology that we use for this example. This has an input voltage range up to 60 DC volts, adjustable switching frequency, and can control 4 external MOSFETs, ensuring a high degree of flexibility in the design. There are 5 key features of the buck-boost design: double-sided 6-layer printed circuit board, 400 kilohertz switching frequency, current ripple and choke approximately 30% of rated current, company 60-volt MOSFETs with low on resistance, thermal resistance, and package ESL and 1 ohm gate series resistors. The appropriate inductor can be picked out pretty easily with the help of RedExpert. It's a free online platform available at Worth Electronic Online. In this case, the operating parameters must be entered once for buck operation and again for boost operation. In buck operation, this gives a larger inductance and a smaller maximum peak current with 7.52 microhenry and 5.83 amps. In boost operation, the inductance is smaller, but the max peak current is higher at 4.09 microhenry and 7.04 amps. Another advantage of using RedExpert for inductor selection is that different components can be compared on the basis of their complex AC and DC losses and the resulting component heating, as well as their more obvious data, such as size, rated current, and much more. In this case, a shielded inductor from the WE XHMI series with 6.8 microhenry inductance and 15 amps rated current was selected. The component has very low DC resistance and extremely compact dimensions of just 15 by 15 by 10 millimeters. This is all thanks to modern manufacturing technology. The innovative core material mixture also gives soft and temperature-independent saturation characteristics. As for capacitor selection, the high pulse currents through the blocking capacitors and the required low residual ripple make a combination of both aluminum polymer and ceramic capacitors the best choice. Once the maximum input and output voltage ripple has been set, the required capacitances can be calculated using a specific formula. You can view this formula attached in this podcast as Figure 1. RedXpert allows the DC bias of the MLCCs to be quickly and easily established, resulting in a value significantly closer to reality. Our result shows 20% less capacitance at an input voltage of 24 volts. This gives an effective capacitance of only 23 microfarad, but this is still sufficient. A 68 microfarad per 35 volts. Worth Electronics' aluminum polymer capacitor is also used in parallel to the ceramic capacitors, with a 0.22 ohm surface mount resistor wired in series. This serves to maintain stability with respect to the converter's negative input impedance together with the input filter. Now, since this capacitor is also subjected to a certain amount of high pulse current, an aluminum electrolytic capacitor would be less suitable. The higher ESR would cause this capacitor to become very hot. For the selection of the output capacitors, we have chosen the WCAP PSLC 220 microfarad at 25 volts. In our second and our third attached figures of this podcast, you will see EMC optimized layout of the top layer of the buck boost converter and EMC optimized layout of the bottom layer of the buck boost converter with 4 power MOSFETs, the remaining blocking capacitors, the shunt, and the freewheeling diodes. On Figure 2, we see a close arrangement of the ceramic blocking capacitors, makes the input and output loops with high change in internal temperature, and is very compact. Also shown is a separate and smooth AGND copper surface for the sensitive, high-impedance analog part of the circuit, compact bootstrap circuit very close to the switching regulator IC. Current measurement connections to the shunts are routed as differential lines and have a clean Kelvin connection. Broadband pi filter to decouple the internal power supply of the switching regulator IC. Use of as many vias as possible for low inductance and low impedance connections to the underside of the circuit board and the inner PGND layers, and large areas of copper that make excellent heat sink, and they provide low DC resistance, but they must not be any larger than necessary as to not form undesired antennas. The layout also includes an arrangement of the ceramic blocking capacitors close to the FETs that make the input and output loops, and the geometric layout and the use of copper surfaces means that the connections among the FETs and between the FETs and shunt have very low impedance and induction. On our attached Figure 3, the bottom layer of the buck boost converter, we have the current shunt with reverse geometry for even lower parasitic inductance. The high-frequency current loop is also minimal. There is better cooling since there are no further large components to impede thermal connection. The ultra-fast recovery Schottky diodes are placed immediately next to the corresponding FETs. And lastly, those large areas of copper make an excellent heat sink, and they provide low DC resistance. In the intermediate layers, all 4 intermediate layers are essentially PGND copper surfaces. This gives benefits such as uniform distribution of thermal loss, current feed and return paths that are always forming as small a loop area as possible, minimizing resulting EMC critical loop antennas. A certain amount of EMC critical high frequency is converted to heat in the PGND surfaces and then absorbed. There's also partial shielding. The leads to the gates of the MOSFETs run within two PGND layers and are thus completely shielded, and the vias with GND potential are placed at regular intervals around the edge of the PGND. This counteracts potential edge radiation. For these filters, the components need to be selected so that broadband interference suppression of 150 kHz up to 300 MHz can be achieved. This should adequately damp the expected conducted and radiated EMC interference. However, the filter could be simpler if the cables used at the input or output are shortened or if they're completely removed. Now, to satisfy the needs of most applications, the converter's interference should be within the limits of Class B domestic, both in the conducted and the radiated ranges. As well as the insertion loss, it's especially important with the currents that are required that the inductive components have as low a DC resistance as possible. This keeps efficiency and self-heating at an acceptable level. But quite often, low resistance means a larger design. It's particularly important to use state-of-the-art components that provide an excellent compromise between DC resistance, impedance, as well as size. The WE MPSB series is particularly suitable in this case, as well as compact designs from the WE XHMI series. Inexpensive aluminum electrolytic capacitors are suitable as capacitive components for filters above 10 microfarad capacitance. Unlike the blocking capacitors that we mentioned before, high ripple currents do not occur here, so they do not have to be suitable for high ripple currents. This means that higher ESR is not a problem. This even helps to keep the filter factor low and prevents further unwanted oscillations. In our attached figure 4, we have the measurement of conducted interference without an input filter. So as expected, the interference is not within Class B limits despite having that good layout. Also included in figure 4 is the measurement of radiated interference without input and output filters. The difference between the interference and the limit value is very small, at approximately 180 megahertz. Now, this could cause problems with subsequent measurements. This cause is the fast reverse recovery time of the Schottky recovery current, which stimulates parasitic LC resonance. When we discuss our analysis of the layout on PCB above surface with input and output filter, both filter banks are arranged so that inductive and capacitive coupling with the main part of the circuit is eliminated as much as possible. Otherwise, this could compromise the filter effect. The PGND copper surfaces in the inner layers are connected only to the two aluminum electrolytic capacitors of the filter. There is no copper below the filter banks, even in the intermediate layers. This avoids galvanic coupling, which would reduce the suppression effect of the filter capacitors. The T-filters are designed so that unwanted capacitive and inductive couplings within the three components are eliminated as much as possible, and no copper is placed under the two current compensating chokes to minimize capacitive coupling. The measured efficiency at 100 watts output power, the buck mode measured at 96.5% and boost mode at 95.6%. The maximum component temperature is below 64 degrees Celsius, which gives enough allowance for higher ambient temperatures, which also means low stress on the components. Likewise, efficiency is at a very high level, especially considering that this factors into all the filter components. In summary, despite having an elaborate layout and the appropriate active and passive components, the demanding specifications of this example, including the long cables, the lack of shielding, etc., means that Class B compliance is absolutely impossible without further additional filters. Because this was expected, it was possible to design in suitable filters from the outset. A flexible, high-efficient, and Class B compliant 100-watt buck-boost converter has been developed. To create an even more compact circuit board, the two filter banks could be turned through 90 degrees or positioned on the underside of the PCB. Results can be achieved quickly and inexpensively with the help of design and simulation software such as RedXpert and LT Spice. Attached images are available in most podcast streaming networks. To view all images, visit www.we-online.com/podcast. To download the complete application note that we discussed today, visit Worth Electronic online at www.we-online.com/appnotes. You're listening to Worth Electronics What's Up Radio podcast, where each week we are seeing what's up in the world of electronics and PCB design. We'll be checking in with leading industry experts and Worth Electronic technical specialists who will shine a light on interesting topics, such as energy harvesting, wireless power transfer, EMI, and so much more. Tune in to get technical design tips and applications during your commute, at your desk, or wherever you might be with Worth Electronics What's Up podcast.